The movie begins by presenting a dystopian future where air pollution has made it impossible to breathe naturally. To survive, people have installed air filters in their homes and use advanced oxygen filtering masks whenever they step outside. In response to this crisis, a corporation named Athra has introduced a solution called AI Remedy, a drug that enables users to breathe in polluted air for up to 6 hours without the need for a mask. However, the exorbitant cost of this medicine has restricted its availability to the wealthy elite. The scene shifts to a secret lab, where Solomon, a scientist, is recording a video to expose Athra's practices. He condemns the company for catering only to the rich, predicting a grim future where people will go to extreme lengths to acquire AI Remedy. Driven by this, Solomon is determined to create an alternative solution. However, his experimental medicine comes with a dangerous side effect. Overdosing leads to bizarre changes in the user's body. Despite this, Solomon believes his invention could save humanity. During his recording, Solomon receives devastating news. The last remaining green zone, a region with relatively cleaner air, has been completely polluted. Experts project that 83% of the world's population will perish within the next 18 months due to the worsening air quality. To make matters worse, Solomon's partner Spider informs him that the lab's location has been compromised, and they must protect their research. Spider suggests disguising their medicine as blue-colored drugs, which are trending in the black market, to evade detection and prevent their formula from being exposed. The story then introduces Ella, the film's protagonist, a model currently promoting Athra's products. We learn that Ella's mother, with whom she shared a close bond, has passed away. Ella treasures her mother's necklace, which conceals a vial of AI Remedy, allowing her to breathe freely without a mask. On the anniversary of her mother's death, Ella feels particularly low. When her boyfriend cancels their plans, she calls her best friend Gina, seeking company. However, Gina, who is secretly involved with Ella's boyfriend, is busy meeting him instead. Gina and the boyfriend plan to confess their affair, but decide to delay the revelation out of respect for Ella's grief. Meanwhile, they head to a secluded spot to collect drugs from a dealer. As Gina waits in the car, Ella calls, sharing her disappointment about her boyfriend's absence. Gina invites Ella to a party to lift her spirits, but Ella declines, still upset. Elsewhere, Athra's CEO, Eric, is giving an interview, proudly discussing the success of AI Remedy. The conversation takes a sharp turn when the interviewer questions why the drug is only accessible to the wealthy and why the company isn't addressing global demand. Unprepared to answer, Eric hastily ends the interview. The narrative returns to Gina's boyfriend, who enters the dealer's house. Unknown to him, this location also serves as Solomon and Spider's secret lab. While attempting to steal drugs, he stumbles upon Solomon's experimental medicine. Mistaking it for a new recreational drug, he seizes the opportunity to steal it when Solomon isn't looking. After collecting the dealer's supplies, he sneaks out, hiding the stolen drug among the loot and leaving undetected. We see Eric again, this time on a tense call with his father, a high-ranking official in the company. The fallout from Eric's failed interview was severe, with people flooding social media and news outlets with questions like, "Is this company only for the rich?" Eric's father demands swift action to salvage the company's reputation, warning him that his job is on the line. Stressed and desperate, Eric retreats to his lab, where he tests a new drug on a lab rat. The results are disastrous. The rat dies immediately after ingesting the compound. Frustrated by yet another failure, Eric angrily punches his tablet, shattering it in the process. Just then, his assistant enters with a glimmer of hope, informing him that they have tracked someone. Who this person is and why they're important remains a mystery for now. Shortly after, Eric receives a call from his estranged son. The boy, who lives with Eric's ex-wife after their divorce, has reached out secretly. During the call, the son proudly shares that he helped some poor people by donating money. Instead of praising him, Eric lashes out, calling the poor parasites and warning his son to stay away from them. Disheartened, the boy ends the call, and Eric's disdainful attitude is left hanging in the air. The scene shifts to Ella, who is lost in thought, holding an old magazine featuring her late mother, a famous model. In the photo, a young Ella sits in her mother's lap. She reflects on how much of her fame comes from resembling her mother, both in looks and legacy. Her reverie is interrupted by a call from her father, who is currently in another country, providing life-saving resources like masks and air filters to the underprivileged. Concerned about her being alone, her father tells her, "Ella, "You shouldn't be by yourself today." But instead of opening up, Ella abruptly ends the call. Once the call disconnects, she feels the full weight of her loneliness. Determined to distract herself, she decides to attend a party. At the party, Ella searches for Gina but doesn't find her. Wandering around, she ends up in the washroom, where a shocking sight awaits her. Her boyfriend and Gina are hiding there, handing out drugs. Realizing the betrayal, Ella is overcome with rage. Gina leaves in a hurry, and her boyfriend tries to slip away without an explanation. In the chaos, the drugs they were handling fall to the floor. Seething with anger and confusion, Ella impulsively picks up the compound and consumes it without thinking. Almost immediately, she feels its effects. Her vision blurs, her body weakens, and dizziness overtakes her. Moments later, she collapses, lying unconscious on the cold floor. At this moment, Ella received a message from Gina asking, "Can we talk?" But Ella was in no state to respond. Her body felt as though it was on fire. Desperate for relief, she filled a bathtub with cold water and submerged herself in it. Meanwhile, Ella's boyfriend realized he had left the stolen drugs in the washroom. Panicked, he rushed back upstairs to retrieve them. However, on his way, he noticed that the drug dealer and Solomon's men were following him. The stolen drugs had not gone unnoticed, and now they were after him. Fearful for his life, he began to run, but the men caught up to him in the bathroom. They beat him mercilessly, demanding to know where the stolen compound was. Despite the pain, he refused to admit that he had taken it and claimed it was lost. While Solomon and his team frantically searched for the missing compound, Ella emerged from the bathtub, visibly shaken but alive. To everyone's shock, she confessed, "I've taken the compound." The boyfriend, desperate to save himself, quickly told Solomon what Ella had said. But by the time Solomon and his men turned their attention to Ella, she had already slipped away. Suspicion fell back on the boyfriend. Solomon's men accused him of lying to distract them. He claimed that Ella had been hiding in the bathtub all along, but the idea of someone holding their breath underwater for so long seemed unbelievable to them. The interrogation turned violent once again. Solomon's men resumed beating the boyfriend to force the truth out of him. In the chaos, the boyfriend pulled out a gun, hoping to scare them off. Spider, Solomon's partner, lunged to stop him, but in the struggle, the gun accidentally discharged, wounding the boyfriend in the leg. Blood poured from his injury as he collapsed. Acting quickly, Solomon used his belt as a tourniquet to stop the bleeding. With the boyfriend incapacitated, Solomon and his team refocused their efforts on finding the compound. Unbeknownst to them, Ella had already taken it. As they searched, they received word that the police were on their way. With several drug dealers among them, the risk of getting caught was too high. At the mention of the police, everyone panicked and fled the scene, including Solomon and his men. As the dust settled and the chaos subsided, the area was left eerily quiet. Solomon, his team, and the drug dealers had all disappeared into the night. Ella had been hiding all along on the ceiling of the washroom, a spot no one thought to check. Suddenly, she leaped down gracefully, landing with the precision of someone who had been training for stunts her whole life. The unexpected move startled the boy, who stared at her in fear. Strange markings had appeared on Ella's arms, glowing faintly. When questioned, she could only say, "I think the compound is reacting with my body." Ella decided to leave the bathroom, but when she reached the door, she realized it had been locked by Solomon to prevent the boy from being discovered by the police. Frustrated, she knocked on the door, only for it to splinter and break apart under her touch. Shocked at her newfound strength, she hesitated briefly before stepping outside. As she emerged, she spotted Solomon and his men still mingling at the party. Realizing the danger of being seen, she quickly retreated back to the washroom. Desperate to escape, she began smashing the skylight above, intending to climb through it. Her boyfriend, who had been watching her, handed her an AI remedy capsule. "This will help you breathe outside without a mask," he said. Ella swallowed the capsule and climbed out through the skylight. The noise of her movements caught the attention of Solomon's men, who realized someone was trying to escape. Her boyfriend, however, struggled to follow her. The injury on his leg made it nearly impossible for him to climb, and he slipped repeatedly. Just as Solomon's men were about to spot him, Ella extended her hand and pulled him up. To her surprise, her hands had become incredibly sticky, allowing her to grip securely onto surfaces. Meanwhile, Gina, who was standing outside on the street, spotted Ella and her boyfriend on the roof of the building. Determined to confront them, she made her way inside the house to find them. Ella and her boyfriend were also trying to escape, with the boyfriend taking the lead. He leaped from the roof, aiming for the ground below, but his injured leg caused him to misjudge the landing. He hit the ground awkwardly and died instantly from the impact. Ella, horrified, followed after him. Just as she landed, Gina appeared. Seeing the scene, Gina immediately assumed that Ella had pushed her boyfriend off the roof in a fit of rage, leading to his death. Ella tried to explain, but before she could say anything, Solomon's men spotted her and began chasing her. Desperate to escape, Ella fled towards the jungle. Meanwhile, Gina filed a police report against her, accusing her of involvement in the chaos. As Ella ran, she eventually crossed the jungle's fence and emerged onto the road. But just as she reached the street, something took hold of her, and she collapsed, losing consciousness. At that moment, a car appeared, stopping to pick her up. When Ella regained consciousness, she found herself in a familiar place. Her friend was there, telling her how much Ella had hurt her. Concern washed over Ella as she processed the words, and she rushed to the washroom, horrified by what she saw. Her body had begun to change. Strange marks covered her skin, her mouth was turning an unnatural color, and even her nails had started to grow unusually long. Panic set in as she grabbed a pair of scissors and hastily cut away the abnormal growths. In a frantic state, Ella ran to the hospital, seeking help. She showed her reflection to a nurse and explained that after taking the drug, her mouth's color had changed. The nurse, deeply concerned, immediately recognized the seriousness of Ella's condition. She suggested quarantining Ella for her safety, fearing the drug's effects could be contagious. Terrified, Ella bolted, desperate to avoid quarantine. As she tried to escape, the nurse called for security, but Ella knew she couldn't outrun them. So, she turned to the only option left. She sneaked into a patient's room and, using her newfound sticky hands, climbed up to the ceiling to hide. The patient in the room was stunned by what she saw, but Ella pleaded with her, "Please, don't tell anyone about me." The patient, moved by her desperation, agreed to keep quiet. When security arrived, the patient stayed silent, and in return, Ella handed her all the air remedies she had stolen from Eric's company. The scene shifted, and we found Eric, who was being briefed on the situation. It was revealed that there was no one keeping an eye on Solomon's activities, except for Eric himself. Eric received troubling news. An innocent life had been lost because of Solomon's people. Additionally, Solomon's men were on the hunt for Ella. Eric also learned about a recent incident involving Ella, where Solomon's people had been lying about the situation. Her friend had reported it to the police, and this piqued Eric's interest. He, alongside Solomon, had now directed his team to track down Ella. Meanwhile, Solomon and Spider were scouring the area for Ella and eventually reached her friend's house. Inside, they discovered the same scene in the washroom that Ella had cut from her story. Ella, desperate for help, had arrived at Gina's house, but when Gina saw her, fear took over. Ella, frustrated, forced Gina to listen. She explained that she hadn't killed her boyfriend. He had died while they were trying to escape the drug dealer. She explained how, after falling, her boyfriend had tragically died. Ella took her boyfriend's body back to her own place, but as she looked at herself in the mirror, she noticed that the strange marks on her body had worsened. Her skin had turned blue, her nails were breaking, and she felt a deep hunger for meat. Rushing to Gina's fridge, she devoured everything inside. Once her cravings were satisfied, she grabbed her phone and sent a message to her boyfriend's group, knowing they would still have his phone. She instructed them to meet with Solomon, agreeing to whatever plans were in place. Meanwhile, Eric was in a meeting with his parents, revealing that his company lacked the funds to provide the AI remedy for everyone. The competition was fierce, and if they didn't find a solution soon, they'd be out of the game. His father instructed him to come up with a new formula quickly, or face being fired. Ella's plan led her to a meeting with Solomon. Gina took her to the designated location, unaware of the danger that awaited her. Once there, Solomon spoke to Ella, but this was merely a distraction. As Solomon talked, Spider appeared from behind and kidnapped Ella. Gina, realizing something was wrong, quickly tracked Solomon's phone and called the police. Back at the hideout, Ella was tied up. As she regained consciousness, she used her blood to free herself from the restraints. Desperate, she devoured more raw meat from the counter. The noise alerted Solomon and Spider, who entered the room, determined to talk to Ella. But she didn't trust them. In a moment of defiance, Ella spat acid at both men and attempted to escape. However, Solomon caught her before she could flee. Hearing that the police were closing in, Solomon handed his final compound to Spider, preparing for what was to come. Ella was caught in the chaos, and just as she was about to escape with Solomon, the police arrived and arrested her. She was charged with the murder of her boyfriend and the attack on her friend. Solomon, too, was apprehended by the police, who mistakenly believed him to be Ella's leader, orchestrating everything with her. Both were taken to the police station. In the prison, Ella began feeling intense pain in her ears. When she placed her hand on one, her ear detached and fell into her palm. Horrified, she looked to see something strange emerging from where her ear used to be. Fearing that this would be discovered, she quickly covered herself with a hoodie. In the neighboring cell, Solomon spoke to her, explaining that she had misunderstood him. He revealed that he was a scientist who had once worked at the Athra company. He had developed the AI remedy but was disillusioned when the company decided to distribute it only to the wealthy. Now, he was focused on creating an alternative remedy accessible to everyone. Before he could explain further, a police officer entered and informed them that someone had posted bail for them, none other than Eric. Eric took Ella to his research facility, where he conducted tests on her. The results were shocking. Her DNA had completely mutated, meaning she was no longer human. Furious, Eric descended to his basement, where his people were torturing Solomon. Confronting him, Eric threatened that if Solomon didn't agree to work for his company again, he would face severe consequences. Despite the threats, Solomon remained defiant, stating that his only goal was to create a medicine available to all, not just the rich. Eric, enraged by Solomon's refusal, declared that he had no place in the world anymore and returned upstairs. Ella had just regained consciousness when she realized her mouth had undergone a drastic transformation. Her body was changing in ways she couldn't comprehend. Eric informed her that these changes meant she was no longer human. He explained that the new abilities she had acquired, including the ability to breathe polluted air, were a blessing. Her body contained an enzyme that could be used to create more AI remedies. Eric told her they needed to conduct further tests and take samples, and for that, they needed her father's help. When Ella reluctantly gave him her father's address, Eric's anger flared. Eric realized that with Ella's blood or Solomon's assistance, he could create more AI remedies. However, Solomon was unwilling to cooperate, unwilling to share the credit for creating the AI remedies. Eric had previously taken credit for Solomon's work and only made the remedies available to the wealthy. Now, Eric attempted a different approach with Ella. He promised her that if she allowed him to experiment on her, he would restore her to her normal self. Ella, desperate, agreed, and they signed a contract. Soon after, Ella was revived. When Ella regained consciousness, she discovered that her new abilities had progressed. Her enhanced hearing allowed her to hear conversations from rooms far away. She overheard a conversation between Eric and his father, where Eric explained that the enzyme produced in her body could be used to create more AI remedies. Eric then revealed his plan to extract the enzyme, a procedure so dangerous it could cost her life. Furious, Ella began smashing the glass separating her from Eric. Seeing her becoming frantic, Eric released a gas into the room to put her back to sleep. Meanwhile, Spider entered Eric's facility disguised as a delivery driver. Just as two doctors arrived to take Ella, they were shocked to find that her handcuffs had been removed. Ella had been pretending to be unconscious to distract them. She swiftly attacked the doctors and escaped. Ella knew she had to break out, and she needed Solomon's help. She trusted that Solomon could help cure her and had good intentions. Using the doctor's fingerprint, she unlocked the door and fled. Guards saw her escape on the CCTV, and before they could raise the alarm, Ella hid on the roof. When the guards approached, she threw acid in their faces, incapacitating them before killing one of them. Afterward, Ella found Solomon and urged him to escape with her, but he refused. He explained that he needed to steal important formulas from the facility to create a free AI remedy for everyone. Angered, Ella demanded to know how this was any better than the masks they used to wear. Solomon promised to explain and showed her a friend, revealing his plan to reach the research room. Ella used her sticky hands to climb, carrying Solomon with her. Meanwhile, Eric had returned to the office with his son, leaving him behind to search for Ella and Solomon. Eric immediately called for a security team. Before they could find Ella and Solomon, Spider planted a bomb inside the facility and issued a threat. if they didn't release Ella and Solomon, the entire facility would be destroyed in 9 minutes. The staff panicked, but Eric's assistant urged him to evacuate. However, Eric remained confident, dismissing the bomb threat as a distraction. He believed there was no bomb at all. Meanwhile, Ella and Solomon reached the research center. Using a hologram, Solomon explained to Ella how his medicine was far superior to a mask. He shared that pollution had wiped out almost all insects, except for a few dragonflies. These dragonflies had developed the ability to breathe in polluted air, and now Ella had taken a compound that had transformed her like them. Solomon revealed that AI remedies had been derived from these creatures, but now only Ella had the enzyme required to produce more. Despite Ethra's attempts to replicate the enzyme artificially, they had failed. Solomon explained that the drug Ella took had animal DNA incorporated into it, which would eliminate side effects and allow the remedy to be introduced to the world. As they were discussing, the bomb exploded within the building, forcing them to retreat to the basement. There, they encountered a man who turned out to be Spider, coming to their aid. As they spoke, poisonous gas began spreading in the basement, and they quickly retreated upstairs, hiding in a washroom with Eric's son. Ella comforted the frightened child, and the two developed a bond. The four of them tried to escape, but Eric had blocked their path. Solomon and Spider found another route, but Ella was confronted by Eric. She created a shield to protect Eric's son, threatening him by holding a string around the boy's neck. However, Eric remained unaffected and shot Ella. Distracted by his son's reaction, Eric hesitated, giving Solomon and Spider the opportunity to escape in an elevator to the garage. They took a van and sped off, evading pursuit. Eric's guards began firing at the van, but at the right moment, Eric intervened, ordering them to stop. He wanted Ella alive. The guards, following his orders, disabled the van, causing a dangerous crash. By the time they reached the car, only Spider remained. Ella and Solomon had escaped. In the forest, Ella used her nails to break through the car's fence and ran. Eric's guards scattered through the woods to search for them. Meanwhile, Spider, pretending to be ill, tricked one of the guards. When he approached, Spider attacked and killed him, then successfully escaped. Ella and Solomon eventually reached a bridge, where Solomon urged Ella to jump and escape from their pursuers. However, Ella refused to leave without him. Solomon revealed that his arm had mutated slightly from the compound he had taken, warning her that taking the full dosage could result in full mutation with uncertain survival. He gave her the final sample of his compound, telling her to complete the enzyme and share it with the world. Before jumping, Ella gave Solomon her locket. As she leapt from the bridge, Eric's guards arrived. Meanwhile, Spider hacked into the city's TV channels and computers, sending a message to the world. He revealed that hope wasn't lost. Thanks to the medicine, people would no longer die. They would just need to wait a little longer for the cure to reach everyone. In the post-credit scene of the movie, we find Ella once again. This time, when she awakens, she discovers that wings have sprouted on her back, much like a dragonfly's. Realizing that to save the world, she needs to add a significant amount of enzyme to her compound, she sets off in search of it. It is revealed that the enzyme isn't found in just anyone's body, but specifically in Eric's assistant, Angelina. The scene ends on a cliffhanger, leaving the audience with a lingering question. Will Ella succeed in her mission and save the world, or will it all be in vain? With this, the movie ends. If you liked this video, then do not forget to subscribe to the channel after liking the video.